Hey guys, before we begin, I just wanted to give a quick content warning for this episode. At various points in our conversation, Neesha and I discussed sensitive topics, including a bomb threat at a school, though thankfully no one was harmed, as well as brief mentions of suicide and later a discussion on sexual assault. If these topics are difficult or upsetting for you, please check the episode description for specific timestamps so you can skip these sections if needed. Your mental and emotional well-being always comes first, and we completely support you taking care of yourself in whatever way feels right. Thanks for being here and for listening with care and compassion. Welcome back to the Common Threads podcast. I'm your host, Kate Hall, and today we have an incredible guest, my friend Neesha Farmer. Neesha was born and raised in St. George, Utah, and recently moved up to northern Utah to further her career in optometry. She's also an incredible nail tech. So if you're in the Salt Lake area and looking to get your nails done, Neesha is your girl. She's so good. And Neesha is an out and proud bisexual as well, and she's also an active member of the LDS Church. So thank you so much for joining us, Neesha. I'm so
I'm so
excited.
excited.
It's gonna be really fun.
Yes.
Um, so I kind of just gave like a brief overview of you, but do you want to introduce yourself any further? Anything I might have missed?
Um, I mean, you basically hit all the key points of my personality. So, but
Love
yeah,
it.
I live up in Provo. Been here for 6 months, and well, seven, I guess now. And I do work in optometry. I'm an optometric technician. So, you guys like people looking at your eyes? Come visit me.
Love, love. Um, so I wanted to start off with just kind of basic growing up
Mhm.
experiences. So you grew up in Southern Utah, St.
Yeah.
George specifically. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how that shaped the way you view the world.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm from St. George, and Um, if you've ever been there, Utah is, I feel, a very conservative religious state. And St. George, especially, I feel like is very conservative, especially in the past few years. I've seen that a lot more abundantly. Um, and growing up, it was always interesting because I was raised LDS and a member of the church very actively. But like, I knew from a very young age that my parents and like my family saw things differently than everyone else around me, which was always interesting for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, like, my parents have always been very open people, and we would have those like tough conversations. And then I'd go to school and I'd be like, we talked about this at home. And they're like, what is that? What are you talking about? Who are gay people? I don't know what those things are. And so it was all like, it was very interesting to be raised in a town where it was one view, and then your whole family is like, hey, we're outside of the box. So it was
Mhm.
always very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Did you always feel like you aligned with your parents' beliefs, or because there were so many outside influences kind of pulling you in the other direction, did you ever feel you shifting more towards the right than the left?
I mean, I definitely would consider myself a very influenced person. Like, I mean, my mom told us all growing up, you are like a combination of the five people you spend your most time with. And there are five other people in my family. And so I was like, okay, these people are right. But even now, like, I think I definitely align a lot with my family, even now, like forming my own opinions and like living on my own and serving a mission and like all these things. I do still align a lot with what they think. Are there things I think differently because I am openly gay? Yes, of course. Um, but I definitely think so, especially like, um, I don't know if it's the whole state of Utah, but at least at our school, it's required your senior year to do government. And there were times where my teacher, he was very conservative thinking. And there were times where I was like, he's kind of got a point. But then I'd be like, no, but I don't actually believe that. So like it definitely like I was very influenced by my family, but there were other people like I could see other sides, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. Um, do your siblings or anyone else around you share similar views, or have they also kind of evolved their thoughts?
I think we're all like, because I have three siblings, and I think we're all very different people, but very similar because we were all raised the same. I think the sibling that like I align most with is my older sister. Like, if I have a question about anything about politics or worldviews or anything, I go to her because I'm like, she's gonna be honest, but also we have the same view about it.
Mhm.
And like my younger brother, he was raised like a lot like us, went on his mission, and more so has some conservative views. And then my older brother's an enigma and nobody knows what's going on. So, but like he's his own person. And so I think it's really interesting how being raised a certain way and then all us branching out into these different ways is like really cool. So
Yeah, that is super cool. And I love that you guys are still like close and stuff, and you can talk with your sister and it sounds like
yeah,
your other siblings as well, and having those different views is really cool.
yeah,
So,
it's great.
one thing that I learned very early on about your family is your parents are very healthy
Oh
and
yeah,
they're vegan or vegetarian, right?
vegetarian. Hmm.
Vegetarian. Okay, yeah. You mentioned that in your survey is kind of being a huge part of your life. So tell us about how that has altered the way that you see the world.
Yeah, of course. I remember because my parents have been vegetarian for like I think around 14 years now,
Wow.
something like that, like a really long time. And like my mom has always been all about health and fitness. She is a fitness instructor. Um, she's done that for years. And so we were raised like in the summer, she would go teach her classes and we would do We Fit. Like that was that was what we would do. And so that was something really important. And then I remember my uncle, my mom's older brother, was like, you guys should watch this documentary called Forks Over Knives. And my parents made us watch it with them. And I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7, and I was like, I hate this. I would rather watch literally anything else. And my mom was like, this changed me. She was like, I want to try this. And my dad is like, okay, let's do it. Because he's like the most supportive guy. And so they did. He'll joke now. He's like, I thought we were just doing it for a couple months and it's been over a decade.
14
Um,
even. Yeah.
but it's been very like very interesting because I think from then on, I was very like my eyes were open a lot to the fact that I live in a state where hunting is very big. Like even now, like living up in Provo, I'm like, oh, so people like take off work to go hunting. And that was always interesting for me because I'm like, I am very empathetic and I'm like, please don't kill animals and also don't eat them. But also I like chicken nuggets sometimes and that's okay. So it was always very interesting to be like, okay, here's what it is at home, very vegetarian, and then everyone's like, meat is good and meat is crazy.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting to have those views of like animals should live and all this, whatever, this rhetoric. And then everyone else around me being like, hunting is fun.
Mhm.
It's always interesting.
Yeah, yeah, having those differing opinions, kind of clashing a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you also subscribe to vegetarianism when you were growing up, or are you still like vegetarian?
I mean, I definitely am not like a huge carnivore. Like growing up, what our mom served us, that's what we ate for dinner.
Hmm.
And so it's like basically I was, but then if we had school lunch and there was meat with it, then we would have it. Because my parents have never forced anything on us. Like their views of anything they never forced. They never forced their like eating habits or whatever. But even now, I don't know how to cook meat because because of that. So I basically just make vegetables and noodles at my house and that's great. So I kind of do, but it's not like I would identify as a vegetarian.
Right, right. Have your beliefs about like hunting or like killing of animals, like has that shifted at all, or has it kind of remained the same throughout your whole life?
It's definitely remained like my whole life. I remember like a month ago, we had a patient come into my office and they were talking about like the lottery for hunting or whatever. And I was like, first of all, I don't know what this is. So my coworker, who is a hunter. She was like explaining it to me, and she could tell on my face that I was just like, you guys have a lottery to see who gets to go out and kill people. I was like animals. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. Um, but they like explained it to me, and I was like, okay, I understand why you do it. Personally, I would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I consider myself pretty open-minded about a lot of things, so I can understand other people's point of view, but what I'm gonna do isn't gonna change.
Right. Right. And I think that's a really cool perspective to like kind of understand where they're coming from and to be very clear about your beliefs is really
Yeah.
good as well. So I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to shift a little bit to your high school years. You mentioned something in your survey, which I actually just briefly brought up in an interview that I did with Lindsay. And so we both experienced a kid bringing a bomb to our high school.
Mhm.
And so tell us about that experience and what happened and what that was like for you. Because I know I have my own experiences, but I would
Yeah.
love to hear like what that whole day was like for you.
Yeah. It was definitely crazy. I was a sophomore in high school when it happened. And at the time I had a brother, I had my cousin, I had two cousins, and I had my mom who were all at the school when it happened. And I remember we just like because lunch had ended and I always ate lunch in the quiet room because that's what you do when you're cool. And so I was on the other side of the school from where he had like brought it in, and everyone's coming into class, and the principal, I believe, gets on the intercom, and he was like, "We're evacuating the school, like everyone needs to leave." And the like, I think it was a fire alarm or a panic alarm was going off,
Mhm.
and everyone was confused because they weren't saying why, which I fully understand why they weren't. Um, and my mom had like just been getting settled in the school, and so I was like, I'm gonna go with my mom. That's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
And we all evacuated to the football field, and I think we were there for like 25-30 minutes before rumors started spreading about what had happened.
Mhm.
And like word started getting around to us that there was a bomb, there was all this stuff, and I was like, what? That doesn't, I was like, that's not real. This is St. George. Nothing happens in St. George.
Right.
um and then I remember like however long later we see the like school resource officer and some other cops dragging this kid up off the football field, and I was like, this is crazy, this is insane. um and then they started slowly, like a little bit later, they started letting the like kids off the field slowly. um and when we got home, that's when we got like all the information, because at that point I didn't have a phone really,
Mhm.
and so I was like, I couldn't just Google like what's happening, and my
Mhm.
mom was there, and so I was like, if she knows something she'll tell me. So like pretty much I felt like everyone was in the dark. um and then I remember the next day of school was when things were like really crazy. um and I don't know if like your teachers did this too, but like every one of our teachers sat us down and they were like, hey, this is like what happened, this is protocol, this is all this stuff. And I remember going home that day and having conversations with my parents, because like I said, my parents and us, we talk about everything. And it wasn't a new thing talking about bombs, because my parents ran the Boston Marathon a
Mhm.
few years before, which was the year that the terrorist attack on Boston Marathon happened.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't like it was like a new conversation of like, hey, these things happen, people do bad things. But it was like, oh, okay, let's talk about how this is affecting you guys because this is in your school. And so it was definitely like one of the moments in my life where like this is a wake up call about how I feel about things,
Mhm.
because that was a time where we were like really into his like court hearings and everything, the kid who did it. And I remember however long later it was that they like put out his sentencing, and he like only got 24 months of probation or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was so mad because I was like, this guy could have killed so many people that I care about, so many people that I grew up with because he was just mad or whatever. And I think I had a lot of pent up anger about the terrorist attack that my parents were around for. Like, I think I was like, there was no justice for that. There's no justice for this. And it definitely opened my eyes a lot to the justice system or lack thereof for a lot of people, especially white men,
Mm,
unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. What were like some of your thoughts and feelings like that day as compared to now that we're, like 7, 8 years removed from that experience? Yeah, how do you look back on that experience with maybe different thoughts and feelings than what you were feeling like in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the moment, it was like just a lot of confusion because there was no like, it was all word of mouth. And it was like, we're around all these high schoolers. Of course, there's going to be rumors. So it's like, you don't really believe everything. And I remember I was just kind of bored. And also, it was hot. And
Mm.
I was annoyed that I didn't know anything that was going on. Because I like to know things.
Right.
And like looking back at it now, I have really bad anxiety. And I think I'm a little bit grateful that I didn't know because I would have been really anxious and no one there would have been like known how to handle my situation
Mhm. Yeah.
because they were all going through it for the first time too. Um, so it's definitely interesting your perspective in it versus out of it.
Did that experience impact how you view school safety at the time?
A little bit. I mean, our school, like, at least from my perspective as an underclassman, there was a little bit of like sheltering that they did because like a couple months before there was like another incident that kind of rattled my year. And I don't know if you heard about it, but there was a kid who I had grown up with who had, trigger warning, he had killed himself a couple months before. And it was a kid that I had literally known since kindergarten. And I remember at that point, the teachers treated us the same way they did after the bomb, where they were like, hey, this is what happened, but also talk to your parents about it at home. The counselor exists at school, but also talk to your parents about it at home. And I remember they told us a lot. They were like, don't spread rumors about it, try not to talk about it a ton for both situations. Just because they're like, we want to keep sensitivity, which I think I look at it very differently now because I think you should talk about things.
Hmm.
In like any situation, I think that you need to talk about it. I'm very much like a vocal processor, and I'm like, I need to talk it through to be okay. And I know that there's other people like me who process the same way, but then your school is like telling you, don't talk about it with the people who were there, with the
Right.
people who went through that, don't talk about it at school.
Hmm.
So it was definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
back, I'm like, that should have been handled a little bit better for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy experience. I mean, that day, but then also like the days after it, it just yeah, a crazy experience. I still like don't really know how to process it.
Mhm.
And I kind of just like shoved all of my feelings down in that moment because I had a lot
Yeah,
of friends that were super impacted by it. They went to therapy. A couple friends didn't come to school for a few days.
yeah,
And
like,
so yeah, just making sure that they were okay. And I was like, I can't think about what just happened because
yeah,
yeah, way
yeah.
too easy.
And I think like the way that they told me to do that, unfortunately, like transferred to a lot of other areas of my life where I'm like, this is a big emotion. We're gonna shove it down and not think about it because
Mhm.
I'm not supposed to, which
Yeah,
unfortunately ripples effect in the rest of my life. So I think
right.
be better about those situations for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so I wanted to transition a little bit, unless there's anything else like high school stages that you wanted to talk about, but I wanted to transition into your mission.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome. So you served a mission for the LDS Church,
Mhm.
called it a non-traditional mission. Will you first explain what that is?
Yeah. So my mission is called was called a service mission. So in the LDS church, there are essentially for people of the like younger age group, there are two kinds of missions that you can go on. There are proselytizing missions where you go out and teach um, and try to convert people. And then there's a service mission where you get called like where you live at home and you just do a bunch of service around your community, service for the church, and whatever it may be. And that's the kind of mission that I was called on.
Cool, very cool. And so you served in the St. George area.
Mhm.
So I'm sure this experience presented you with a lot of different people. I know a lot of people come to St. George for tourist reasons. It's a
Yeah.
very outdoorsy place to live. And so I'm sure you got a lot of people from different countries and across the country as well. How did this impact how you saw other cultures and maybe how you interacted with people that had different faiths than you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I guess you could say like my mission was the thing that like radicalized me the most. Like that's the term everyone uses. But because I did a lot of service projects, but I also part-time served at the historical church sites in St. George. Um, and so that was where I met like a lot of people. Because I mean, there's like a lot of draw with the historic site of St. George. If you've ever been, it's really interesting. I mean, I didn't know a lot about it until my mission. And I did meet a lot of people. And I also met a lot of people who did not like me. And I was like, sick, we've never met. Um, and they
Interesting.
would literally like come to my sites that I was like serving at, and they would literally just like bash me. And I'm like, hey guys, so I am 19 years old.
It's
This
wild.
is crazy. Um, but I also so like I was very lucky. My mission was very established as a service mission. A lot of other areas are not.
Hmm.
Um, and we served at a lot of other places that were like non-denominational, or they like we would help other churches.
Hmm.
And I remember meeting this couple. We served at this place called Solomon's Porch, which is kind of like it's a church slash food pantry where businesses in St. George would donate food. Um, and we would go in, we would organize all of it into boxes, and then families who needed food for the week would come in and we would like fill their car with the food.
Mhm.
And we served with members of this congregation. And the pastors were a husband and wife from Las Vegas. And at first, I did not get along with them, obviously, because I was very sheltered in regards to religion.
Mm.
I was like, I've only ever known this church where I was taught we weren't taught about other religions. Like, I knew they existed, but we weren't like taught about them. And then I met this pastor and her husband, who's also a pastor. And I was like, this is crazy. I don't really like them. They scare me a little bit. But then like a few months in, I would have really deep conversations with them about them living in Vegas and the religious scene there, and then coming here where everyone's one religion and they're trying to teach this other one. And I would have a lot of conversations with them about that, and that opened my eyes a lot more to the fact that my religion works for me, but that doesn't mean it works for everybody, which was a very controversial opinion to have when you're actively a missionary,
Right, right.
which was super interesting. But like, I still believe that. Like, that's something that changed a lot on my mission. Was I don't think because I didn't sign up for a service mission. I signed up to go out somewhere and teach.
Hmm.
But I'm thankful every day that I didn't, because I would not have been able to teach people to like join my religion, because it works for me because of who I am, because I was raised in it.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that it works for everyone. And I am not a salesman. I'm not that kind of person who could just be like, well, what about this, that, and the other, you know? Um, and I am very much like a love someone through it person, and that worked for me. in my mission. And that's how I got through a lot of difficult people that I met.
That's crazy that people would like follow you around and harass you just for being, again, 19-year-old
Mhm.
just sharing her beliefs. That's so crazy. I can't believe people
Well, the
sometimes.
crazy things that happened on my mission, oh my gosh, I could talk for days.
Mm. Did you always want to serve a mission? Was that always kind of part of your plan?
No. So it never
Really?
was. So in 2020, so I graduated high school. I was a class of 2020, which was a notoriously fun year to graduate high school.
Right.
And when everything shut down and went online, I knew that I wanted to go to nail school.
Mhm.
And so I started doing that while finishing high school. And at that time, I started getting like promptings and feelings that I was like, maybe I
Mhm.
should go on a mission. Because my plan after high school, I was like, I'm going to get married and I'm going to have kids because my parents got married at 19 and had kids. And I was like, this is normal. And then I got to that age and I was like, no, no. And so I did decide to go on a mission and I jumped like headfirst into planning for it and getting excited and getting prepped. Because like my older sister had gone on a mission. And so I was like, I want to be like my sister. She's so cool. I still believe that. Um and so yeah, that's kind of like how I was like changed the course of my ideal plan.
Mhm. Um, so I want to move a little bit. This still is within the realm of religion, but you it came out as bisexual about a year ago. Is that what you said, right?
Officially, yes, but I came out 6 months after my mission. So in like June of 2023, I came out to like five people who I was very close with. And then months later came out to my family, and then months later came out officially. So I have been out to everyone officially for a year.
Gotcha. And was that always something that you knew about yourself, or was that kind of a more recent discovery?
Um, kind of both. I was always aware of like the LGBTQ community. My
Mhm.
parents were always very open about it growing up because I do have an aunt who is lesbian. And so my parents were like, it's okay if that is how you guys are or whatever. And then I remember when I was 12, I had like had crushes growing up on boys.
Mhm.
And then I remember when I was like 12 or 13, I was at girls' camp. Unfortunately, this is a canon event for a lot of people. But I was at girls' camp and there was a girl and she had a backwards hat on. And something about the backwards hat, I was like, she's kind of hot. And I immediately went to, I'm a lesbian. Literally, like 5 minutes after I saw her, I was like, I'm lesbian. And yeah. That was not the case. I like went home from girls' camp and I was like, okay, it was just the mountains. We were away from home. There were no boys. And I like swept it under the rug. I was like, this is normal.
Mhm.
And then from that point until like for like years, there would be little things where I was like, that girl's hot. But everyone thinks that girls are hot and pretty and want to kiss them sometimes. And that's normal. Everyone thinks that. Spoiler alert, not everyone thinks that.
Right.
And there were like, I would like watch a show and there would be like an actress, and I was like, I feel things for her, but I couldn't explain it.
Hmm.
I like, this doesn't make sense because I had never felt it for a guy. So I was like, this isn't attraction. This is just a weird feeling that I have.
Hmm.
And then on my mission, one of my companions, actually two of my companions, told me that they were bisexual. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I would like talk to them. I was like, well, how'd you know? And so we would have conversations. I was like, interesting. So I kept it in the back of my head, but I was like, I'm focused on my mission right now.
Right.
And there was a lot of other things that happened in my mission with regards to men, which we can come back to later,
Yeah.
that I was like, you know what? We're just going to shut down any romantic anything. Um, And then a few months after my mission, I was talking with my best friend Reagan, and I was like, "Hey, I just got to tell you something." Because she also very open, like me and her align very much politically, religiously, everything.
Mhm.
I was like, "I think I'm bi." I was like, "I sometimes feel things for girls that I don't know if everyone else feels that way, but I feel them. And also, I do still like men." And so I remember just having this like breakdown conversation where I just cried with her because I was like, I am bi, but what does that mean? I was like, I can't go to church anymore and all this stuff. And I'm spiraling because I'm 6 months post mission
Yeah.
and I'm living on my own for the first time. And I'm not having like a religious crisis, but now I am because I'm like, I'm gay. And it was a lot.
Yeah.
She was like, calm down. It's okay. And then after I told her, I told my sister, obviously, I told her everything. And she was obviously very excited. She's like, great, I have a gay sibling. She was pumped. She was thrilled. She's still thrilled. And then I told two of my other good friends, and then I told my cousin who I was also very close with.
Mm.
And all of them were nothing but supportive. And I was like, okay, I can do this and I can figure out who I am as a religious woman and as a gay woman. Like I can do both and I
Mm.
can figure it out.
Right.
But I was like, I need to figure it out before I tell my family because not that my parents would ever judge. I knew that they wouldn't, but I was like, I need to be able to tell them everything.
Hmm.
And so for like 6 months, I worked so hard on like, how can I be both? What does it mean to be both?
Hmm.
And even still, that's something that I figure out every single day. What does it mean to live my authentic self as a proud LDS woman and also as a queer woman? So it's
Right.
definitely interesting.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, have your beliefs about God changed at all since you come out or discovered that part of yourself?
Definitely. And I've talked with like my sister about it. I've talked with my best friend about it because they have different perspectives. Because
Mhm.
my sister is not a member. Um, and so I've like talked with her and been like, this is how I feel. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. And I talked with my friend who is still religious. And she's like, yeah, this is a good perspective. But I definitely think the like Mormon God that I was raised by my like leaders thinking is not who I believe that God actually is.
Mm.
I don't think that you're going to go to hell if you're gay. I don't think that that's the case. I don't think that he hates me because I am, because I do firmly believe that everyone is made in God's image and you are born gay, and those two things can't exist and have God hate you.
Right.
And I very firmly believe that. And I have one of my best friends who he is openly gay. He has a boyfriend and he also goes to church every Sunday. And he is one of the best people that I know. And I'm like these people, I'm like, you can be both. And the God that I was raised thinking sees that you can be both.
Mm.
Like, yeah, if that answers your question.
It does. It does. I love that so much. I think it's so cool that you have found a way to be both things. I think
Mhm.
a lot of people, well, for starters, I think a lot of people struggle to find community in general, and so I think it's really cool that you've found two communities that you feel really loved and accepted in.
Yeah,
But also just kind of breaking the stereotypes of like you have to choose one or the other. And this happens in religion, it happens in politics, but
yeah,
like if you
100.
are one thing, you can't be something else, right?
Yeah,
You're like living proof that like you can if you're passionate about two different things, you can be passionate about two different
yeah.
things and be in those communities. So I think that's really cool. How do you, and you touched on this a little bit, but just how do you navigate that? Because I know for a lot of people it is they're choosing one or the other. They feel like they either have to be queer or they have to be Mormon or religious or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
So how do you kind of balance those two parts of your identity?
Definitely. I think having a good support system in my day-to-day life helps so much. Like I said, when I first came out, I told my best friend, I told my sister, I told my cousin, I told my two friends, and then a little bit later I told my aunt. Um, And my aunt that I told, she was like so great and so supportive. And my cousin who I told, like every single person was just like so great about it that I was like, no matter what I do, these people still love me. And
Hmm.
that helps so much.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is an ongoing relationship with God because I talk to him all the time. Like I'm on my knees praying to him sometimes when things get like so hard. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Hmm.
Um, because I think that having a relationship with him that is my own, where I talk to him and I'm like, this is who you are and this is who you are to me, helps me have an open line of communication where I'm like, I'm not making the wrong choice doing one or the other. And I think that that helps a lot for me.
Hmm. My final question is just on this line of thinking, and then we can jump back to some of your mission experiences. But
Yeah.
just, do you have any advice for people? I know it's really hard, especially living in Utah, for a lot of queer people to come out and to feel comfortable in their identities. And I feel like you've done it in such a beautiful way. And so, like, do you have any advice for anyone who might be listening that are kind of struggling with how to do that, how to tell their family, how to tell their friends, how to be comfortable in that?
Yeah. Um, Definitely I had like a very non-traditional way of coming out and like figuring out who I am. But the biggest thing was that I was honest with myself. Like, because for so many years after I had that first experience at Girls Camp or whatever, I would just be like, "Ugh, no, everyone does that and everyone thinks that way." But then the day that I was like, that's not the case, changed everything. That I actually acknowledged for myself, because you have to come out to yourself first. And I don't think that people talk about that enough, is that everyone's like, well, coming out to your parents, coming out to your friends, but you do have to come out to yourself. You can't tell other people and be your authentic self until you acknowledge it yourself. And I think that the day that I was like, Neesha, you like women in a non-traditional way, I was like, everything from here on out is going to be easier. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be easier because I am honest with myself. And I think that I would tell it to anyone is be honest with yourself. Everything else is going to come the way it needs to.
Mhm. Thank you. That's such good advice. And yeah, I hope if people are listening and are going through that, they can kind of feel the love that you're sharing right now.
Always my goal.
Yes, yeah, that it's gonna be okay and you could do it. And yeah, I love that. That's such cool
Yeah.
advice. So yeah, jumping back to your mission, you mentioned that you had a couple of experiences you wanted to talk about, some
Yeah.
kind of life-changing experiences.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, they were like the ones that really shaped who I am religiously and how I view a lot of things, especially for women in the world that we live in.
Mm.
Um, when I was on my mission, I was sexually assaulted by an elder in my mission. And I had a situation like that before when I was about 14. I had been assaulted before, but this was like a whole other situation because it wasn't just me. Um, and I am really bad, even still, at speaking up for myself, but I will speak up for people that I love and I care about. And I remember when this situation was happening with this elder, I went to my companion, who is my best friend. At the time, we were companions. And I was like, I'm having a really hard time serving because I had like assignments with this elder. And I was like, I'm having a really hard time serving with him because he did something. And she was like, hey, me as well.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, this is not just me. And so just to kind of give like a breakdown of how mission dynamics work, just in case no one has, you have your mission president who is like your highest person that you go to for a problem in your mission. And then with a service mission, you have your stake president who is like your ward leader or whatever. He's your mission president. And then there are two couples who are like your mission leaders who they are, who you like, the adult. I put that in quotations because everyone was an adult, but they were like the higher up, but lower than the stake president. And then you have, for elders, you have elder training leaders, and for the sisters, you have sister training leaders. And they're just like your peers who you go to with a problem, and then they bring it to the mission leader, and then they bring it to to your mission president. And so I remember having this conversation with my companion, and she's like, we need to go to our sister training leader. And I was like, okay. So we went and talked to her, and she was like, ironic enough, I am also having the same issue with this elder.
Wow.
And so we had a conversation with a lot of sisters, and we realized that it was far bigger than just the three of us. And like I said, I am very much an advocate for my friends. And so I went I went with a sister training leader to our mission leaders who I love and I respect them so immensely. This couple specifically, not the other couple. Sorry. Um but we went to them and we were like, "Hey, we're having problems with elder so and so." And we told them everything.
Mm.
And um her husband got so mad because he saw all of us as like his daughters, and he loved us so much that he's like, because we were crying, obviously it's a very emotional thing to come forward about an assault. um and he was like, I want that elder out of here, like I want him out immediately, and he took immediate action. um and the way that our mission worked, where there were two zones because it was such a big mission, so there was like one side of town was with the one couple, the other side was with the other couple, and he happened to be in another zone. So they had to tell the other couple, and then that couple would tell his mission president.
Mm.
And when they told the other couple was like, "Hey, we're going to talk to him before we talk to the mission president and get this figured out." And they talked to him, and in classic fashion, he was like, "I feel bad." He's like, "I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. I feel bad." I was like, "You feel bad because you got caught, not because you actually did it." And they did not go to his mission president.
Mm.
They actually sought out all of the sisters who went and talked to the other couple, so me and two other sisters, and they came to our assignments, and I remember they pulled me into this room, and they were like, "Sister Farmer, it's your fault that it kept happening because you didn't come forward soon enough, and he feels bad, so we're not going to do anything."
Oh,
And I lost it.
yeah.
I was like, "You have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me that he feels bad, so he gets to get away with it," when it
Right.
wasn't just me. It was so many other people. And I got so mad. And I remember going home to my parents, and because I hadn't really told my parents that there was a problem because I didn't want them to be concerned, because I was at home and they could have just gone in and done something, and I was like, I don't want them to have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling my dad, and he got so mad. I love my dad. He's the biggest green flag. Like, he is so protective of me and my sister, and he was so upset. He was like, no one's taking care of them, and it's this whole thing. And at this point, we were like in a post Roe v. Wade world, like it had gotten overturned by the time this was happening. And so we had been having a lot of conversations about assault and about abortion and about Roe v. Wade, like all those things. And I remember like my dad wanted to go to the leaders and be like, "No, you need to fix this." But I was like, "No, it's going to work out the way that it needs to." And spoiler alert, it did not.
Mm.
We had like a devotional with the whole mission, where the couple who didn't want to kick the elder out literally gave a presentation, who it was directed towards everyone, but we knew it was for the sisters, where they were like, "If you don't forgive him, you're breaking your temple covenants." Which, for a room full of missionaries who the most important thing that they've ever done is going through the temple and receiving their endowments, you're telling them that that means nothing if they don't forgive an elder for sexually assaulting them. And we got so mad, and it was just like so eye-opening to me. I was like, the system doesn't care and no one actually cares because I'm like, this handful of victims just came forward with evidence and proof and all these stories who separately they all aligned and they did absolutely nothing,
Mm.
absolutely nothing to fix the situation. And they literally were like, well, we don't want to ruin his mission just because of what happened with you guys. And I was like, okay, well, this just like unfortunately ruined how I look at men for like the rest of my life and how I'm intimate and close with men because I'm worried that they're going to take advantage of me.
Mhm.
And so that was something that like shaped a lot of how I look at the world and the system in regards to how women are treated for sure.
Right. Do you feel like it's an issue that needs to be addressed like within the LDS church, or do you feel like it's more broad, and both can be correct, but just
Yeah.
what are your feelings on that?
I definitely think it's both. I mean, like you said with like when I was talking about being queer in the church, I am trying to like fix it from within. And I think that that goes along with this situation. You need to fix it from within. I mean, so many people hate on the church because they see these things in the news, which is valid, about women who come forward from like recommend interviews where they were like, they asked all these inappropriate questions and this, that, and the other happened, and nothing happened to the bishop, or nothing happened to this person who abused them or whatever, because they are kind of protected within the church. And I am not so blinded by my religion that I won't accept that that is something that is true, because
Mm.
it's true and it does happen. And it happened to me and it happened to people that I love and I care about. And it does need to be fixed, but also in the world, it needs to be fixed. I mean, look at who is our president right now. He literally has multiple proof filled allegations against him of assault and everything. And he's getting away with it. He literally gets to lead the free world. Like, it's crazy.
Right.
But I do think it can start small and then get bigger for sure.
Yeah, yeah. If you could recommend like anything, like what do you think, like specific action wise, what do you think needs to happen? And I don't know, just some recommendations, I guess. I just,
Think it's hard to pinpoint it because I am one person, but also after that happened, every new sister that came in the mission, I was like, we're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to tell you, watch out for that elder. Do not be alone with him. Do not interact with him. And I was like, because you need to speak up about it.
hmm.
I am very much, I am my mother's daughter. She uses her voice. I'm going to use my voice. I'm like, you need to talk about it. And I think that we need to actually acknowledge it within the church and within the world. Don't sweep it under a rug. It's not this like silly little thing that happened. Like, these are important things that need to be talked about. And
Right.
I think that in regards to everything, everything needs to be talked about.
Hmm. No, I appreciate you, first of all, bringing this up because I know how traumatizing and how difficult it is to talk about this stuff. And so first, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing this experience, but also just being an example for other people. And I think that's so good that you kind of took it upon yourself to warn these other people, even if it wasn't like recommended
Yeah.
the church or your church leaders, just looking out for other people. I think that says a lot about you. And like you said, you love to stand up for other people. And so anyways, I just think you thank you for doing that. And I'm sure
Yeah.
those other sisters and maybe even elders too who might have had similar interactions with him just are so grateful to you. So
Yeah.
I thank you for being open and vulnerable about that.
Yeah, of course. I think it
Uh,
needs to be said.
sorry, what was that?
I think it needs to be said. I
Yeah,
think those things need to be
absolutely.
talked
It needs
about.
to be talked about for sure. It's not
Definitely.
talked about enough in society in
Yeah.
general. And so I just appreciate you coming forward and sharing that. So the last thing I wanted to ask, and this is kind of a huge shift from our current topic, but the last
Yeah.
thing I wanted to ask you was just your career in optometry and also being a nail tech. Like, what made you decide to go this route and yeah, pursue this career path?
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like I had said earlier, I did nail school like while I was finishing high school.
Mhm.
because I have always loved nails. I like making people look pretty. And something that I just love is no one's mad getting their nails done. Like when people schedule a nail appointment, that's like they look forward to that. That's the best part of their day. Or it's for their wedding day, which is the best day of their life, or like this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I love getting to have, like, I love being that person for other people. It makes me so happy. And also, I literally just get to like yap with my friends for an hour and a half every 3 weeks, and it's just fun. Um, and so I knew that like I had always kind of knew that I wanted to do that. Um, but unfortunately, it is very oversaturated in Utah, the beauty industry. And so I've been doing that for 5 years, and I now have a clientele. But when I went on my mission, a lot of them went to other nail techs, which is fine. I told them to do that. And so when I got off my mission, I was like, I knew that I wanted to move out and become financially independent. And I couldn't do that with my clientele. And so I literally just like took the first job that I could get after my mission, which was a job as an optician at an eye doctor's office in St. George. And I fell in love with eye care. I was like, this is fascinating. This is cool. Eye surgeries are cool. I love fitting people for glasses and making them feel good and confident in that. And I did that for about a year. And then for a year, I did nails full time. And then after the election, literally the next day, I was like, I need to get out of St. George. I've lived here for 22 years. I need to leave. I need to be independent, and I need to not live in such a conservative place. And again, it was like starting over with my clients. I was like, I'm moving 3.5 hours away. My clients are not going to drive that every 3 weeks.
Right.
And so I started looking for jobs in optometry again because I was like, I know that I love it. I know that I'm good at it. I know what to do. And I got a job as an optometric technician at a company, and I love it. And so now I go down to St. George once a month and I take my nail clients, but my everyday here is doing optometry. So I get literally the best of both worlds. And it's just so fun. And I love it. And I have a good time.
That is so cool. Is that the end goal for you? Like, is this kind of what you want your career path to be, or do you have other goals and aspirations in optometry?
Yeah, I definitely, this is like something I talk with my mom a lot about. Um, I think my ideal is I want to be a surgical tech for eye surgeries.
Hmm.
So I would like help with like all the fun, cool eye surgeries because I think it's cool. Most people don't, they get freaked out, but I love it. And I want to be like a tech for that, so assist the surgeon. But also I think further down the line, when I ideally become like a mom, I would love to do nails at home because like when I was in school, my teacher was a nail tech at home because she was a mom. And I was like, I love that. This is such a good mom job. So I think when I get to like that point in my life, I would do more nails full time, but also have the fallback of being a surgical tech for optometry just because I love them both, which is
Right.
something I didn't think that I would, but I do. So I think
That's
down the
awesome.
line, I would still keep doing what I'm doing, but just in a
Cool.
different capacity.
Right. That's really cool. I love that you found something that you're passionate about and that you love doing. And yeah, if you're doing something you love every day, it's not really work. So
Exactly.
that's so cool that you
Yeah.
found that. So I want to shift into some specific political views.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask just if do you align specifically with one political party or another? And it's totally fine if you don't, but just if you do, what do you align with?
Yeah. I mean, I super am liberal. I'm a very liberal person, very openly so. If you talk to me for 5 minutes, you'll know. But there are some things that I think from both the like Democratic and Republican Party, I can see sides. So I am very like, I don't affiliate with a certain party, but my views are more liberal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So conservative or sorry, moderate, but a little bit liberal leaning. Is that what
Yeah,
you? Cool.
definitely. I'd say that.
Yeah. Do you feel like this specific political identity and, all of your lived experiences up until this point, do you feel like that impacts your life at all?
Definitely. I think it impacts my life. I mean, I think it impacts like my day-to-day experiences, especially living where I am now. I mean, it's definitely better living in Provo. I think a lot more people are open-minded than St. George. And most of my close friends have the same ideologies that I do. But because I was raised a certain way, and I do still see like some more so conservative views, that does make me a more sympathetic person to people without my views, which I think helps me be like a very balanced person.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I love that. You touched on a few things that you're like really passionate about, obviously women's rights and LGBTQ rights,
Yeah.
but what are some things that you are super passionate about politically today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely those two for sure. And especially more so since the beginning of since the like inauguration and also the campaigning of last year for the presidency is like immigration and the rights of literally everyone. I have an uncle who he is an American citizen, but he was born in Brazil. And I remember when things started coming out about like Project 2025, about what Trump like wanted to do with immigrants, I was worried because I was like, this is my uncle who my whole life he has lived here. And his siblings I have met who are from Brazil. And I was like, his kids who were born here and are American and he is American. Like, I was so worried for that. And it opened my eyes a lot more to the fact that I'm like, I've always been aware that people think that it's a problem, but I've never understood why people thought that people coming here illegally or whatever is a problem or
Mhm.
that immigrants are a problem. I'm like, they're literally just people. And maybe that's just because I listen to Hamilton a lot because I think that it's important. But I'm like, and I still say it, I'm like, no one is illegal on stolen ground. This is not land that we just happen upon, no matter how much people tell me that we purchased it or whatever. We literally stole it from Native Americans. um, and I'm like, every single person who lives here now is a descendant of an immigrant. Sorry, not sorry, but that's how it is. And so I just in my head, it has never made sense to just hate someone because they weren't born here. That just doesn't make sense in my head. And so it's something it sometimes I just get so angry that I just cry because I'm like, how do people not understand that they are just literally people
Mhm.
who came here to create a better life for themselves and for their family, which is literally what America was created for, in case people forgot the plot. That's literally why America was created, was to be a safe place and like a start over from countries that weren't treating their people as fairly.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we have become the problem. And so I am very open about that. And I talk a lot about that. And I'm very passionate about immigration to the extent of what I know. And I do not claim to be the most informed person about it. Of course, there are some things that I don't know. But if I don't know, I am willing to ask questions and I am willing to learn. And I think that more people should be willing to learn and they're not. And those are my thoughts.
That's perfect. Thank you for sharing those things that you're really passionate about. So just moving through some final thoughts, what do you hope that people take away from this interview?
Definitely that it literally costs nothing to be a good person. Um, and definitely that you can be two different people at any time. I mean, and I've said it to like I talk with my sister a lot about it because I'm like I feel like I'm two people, but that's not a bad thing. That you can exist in two like different political realms, but still have your own opinion and be in the middle. And I hope that people can recognize that those things can exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good segue into my final question for you, which is what do you wish that people better understood about you and others who might be in the middle of the spectrum, left-leaning, but also having these like more open-minded thoughts. What do you wish that people better understood about you and others who see the world similarly?
Yeah, I wish that more people knew that just because I'm very vocal about my opinions doesn't mean that I'm not willing to listen to yours.
Mm.
I, because I was raised in a more so conservative religion, but I have more open minded ideologies, I can be both. And I am both. And I can listen to your side and I can understand you and sympathize with you and also be who I am. And like, I had a friend who would not be that same way. And it's really hard knowing someone who's like, well, these are my opinions, and I just want to tell you what they are, and I don't want to listen to you. And I never want to be that person for other people. So I wish that more people understood that, like, you can stay firm in your beliefs and your opinions and your politics, and also acknowledge that other people don't believe that, and that doesn't make them a bad person.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Any final thoughts for us while we wrap up?
Just be like a good person. I
That's a good final thought for everyone.
just want more people to be nice to everybody.
Right.
But like on a serious note, I think that we live in a time where there's too much going on at a like on a grand scale that it's more important that you're nicer on a smaller scale. Those 5 people that you interact with on a daily basis are going to ripple to more people. So who you are, and if you're being a good person, it's going to affect more than just that one person. And if you're bad and you're mean, it's going to affect more than just that person that you're talking to. And so I hope that people like recognize that it literally costs nothing to be kind and to just like be nicer in the world. There's too much going on to just spread more hate.
I love that so much. That reminded me of a quote that I heard one time, which is like, and I don't know who said this or where it came from, so I apologize by not officially quoting. Uh, but it was, we should be teaching people not to change the world, but to change their communities because that's where the most impact happens. And I
I
love
love
that.
that.
Yeah, I think that like perfectly sums up like what you're saying right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just to love everyone and take care of the people that you're closest to and the world will be a better place, right?
Yeah.
In
The
theory.
butterfly effect, the domino effect, they're all real. Okay. Just remember that in your day to day life.
Right, right.
Everything's a ripple.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Nisha. I really appreciated getting to know you and interviewing you today.
Of
I'm so
course.
excited for everyone to hear your episode. And yeah, thank you so much.
It was so fun.